welcome to our seminar of carbohydrates, friend or foe. Reason for this seminar is because of the great amount of misinformation that's present in our society on carbohydrates, their value to you, and frankly the way that many times are packaged and presented that confuse you and many times allow you to make poor choices that affect your health long term. To eliminate that, we're going to try to cover this in as much detail as a seminar such as this allows us to, that we don't go on for hours and hours. So we're hoping that today's seminar might become value-filled, purposeful, and encouraging to you as to having some solid confidence in the choices that you make, how you make them, and how it affects your health. And remember, you're a unique individual, and it makes a huge difference making the right choices for the right reasons, and knowing that they're helpful to you will help much in this seminar. Your foe. What we're going to be covering in this seminar is the types of carbohydrates, good and bad carbohydrates, glycemic index or GIs, insulin response, what you should eat and what you should avoid, sugars you can use, the quality sugars, and resources that might be of value. If you've not got our information, make sure that you call the office and they'll make sure you've gotten it. However, if you've gotten this seminar, you should have gotten the carbohydrate sheet that allows you to be able to go right through the seminar with us without really any hassle factors. You'll find that it's very easy for you to just make notes next to the specific categories that have been set up that we're covering in sequence in the seminar. So let's talk about types. Simple sugars, glucose, fructose, sucrose, and lactose. Then the complex, which are fiber. Great benefits as long as you don't overdo it. And in the United States of America, overdoing fiber is not the most common thing that we have to deal with. Whole vegetables, whole grains, and beans. Let's go back to simple. Fructose comes from fruit sugar. Sucrose and lactose. Lactose you're very familiar with because of lactose intolerance, such as milk issues. Just know that those sugars aren't necessarily unhealthy. The way we use them might be considered the biggest problem that we've got. So fiber on the complex, vegetables, whole grains, and beans are complex carbohydrates that are very healthy if applied appropriately. So good and bad carbs. Valuable carbohydrates many times are anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, and are very beneficial to your well-being of prevention of disease. And that's what most everything we're going to cover is about, is teaching you how to prevent disease, not to have to try to treat it afterwards, because it's so much more expensive. It's so much more difficult to deal with. So just realize that. Our goal is don't get the disease, because once you do, it's expensive, time-consuming, and very difficult to get over it. Because by the time you have a disease, you've already damaged a lot of the organ tissue that caused the disease symptoms in the first place. So you don't want to do that if at all possible. Valuable carbs carry lots of vitamins and minerals. They are the key components to our well-being. A vitamin and mineral is something that you need every day for your tissues to run at optimal health. Without them, they don't. Bottom line. Stable food source for society. Healthy, valuable carbohydrates are very beneficial. So knowing which ones are good and which ones are bad is very, very important. And hey, we need to admit that carbs are something that we crave. In fact, go a day without carbs at all and it's kind of like a traumatic day. In fact, many of us rely upon them to be able to get us through hard times or even good times. If you think of really hard times, sometimes you've decided that you should treat yourself to an ice cream treat or a chocolate or an extra sweet of some sort. And then when you're celebrating, we have birthday cakes and New Year's cakes and holiday cakes and pies and cookies and everything else. And it's kind of like carbohydrates are used in many, many ways, but often not the valuable carbs that make a difference in the quality of our health. Here's what's interesting. Understand valuable carbohydrates in your body and you will understand weight loss and maintenance of a good healthy weight. Don't understand it and you will probably always have a problem with weight. Carbohydrates is a key component associated with it. Let me tell you one thing, that if you and I were deciding that we made a pact for 1 year to be able to get as fat as we possibly could. And I don't know why we'd do that, but let's say we did that. If we ate 500 calories more per day, let's say that both of us were the same size, same person basically, and we needed 2,000 calories or 2,500 calories to run our bodies. We're just going to add 500 calories extra per day. You choose carbohydrates. You're just going to have scoops and scoops of sugar that equals 500 calories. And I'm going to have lard, just pure lard or butter every day, pure fat. At the end of the year, when we measure ourselves up, most of the time, depending on other factors, but in general, you'll gain about 43 pounds of fat, and I'll gain on average 9 pounds of fat. Stunning, isn't it? In fact, what you need to realize is if you had ate 500 calories but they were in good carbs, you wouldn't have gained quite as much weight. But eating too many calories still makes a difference. But what we know is carbs seem to promote weight gain much faster than fat. And then fat and carbs together accelerate it in a much higher ratio. So let's realize a few things. The whole idea of carbohydrates is to find good carbohydrates that maintains our weight and enhances our health and keeps us well. That's what we're looking for. Needless to say, fiber is one of those. Fiber is something that has to be in your diet if you're going to end up maintaining good health. We know that if you have high enough fiber, it lowers blood pressure, it lowers heart disease, it lowers cancer in the GI tract, it lowers constipation issues. If we have enough water and fiber, it's very, very healthy for us. A majority of all healthy carbohydrates carry high amounts of antioxidants and thus anti-aging factors. The better the quality there, you're affecting the well-being of your hair, your teeth, your skin, how you look, your appearance, your wherewithal, how well you recover from stress and trauma, and as you get older, how well you age can make a difference here. So almost all carbs are healthy in their natural state until man gets a hold of them. It changes drastically. So how good carbs become bad? Poor unhealthy earth. In other words, unfortunately, and you'll see this in our other seminar, if you want to pick up Secrets to Vital Health, Why You Don't Look and Feel Years Younger, is a great video for you to understand this one issue, that our land does not have as much of the minerals and nutrients that it used to have based upon a governmental study from our agriculture department in 1963 and then the year 2000. Our nutritional value in our conventionally grown foods is decreasing. So thus, the quality of that has changed. Farming techniques, pesticides, herbicides have changed things. Genetically modified plants, they'll tell you that genetically modified plants have no issue associated with this. I question that, but more importantly, as long as we're using the heavy pesticides and herbicides, many times you're eating fruits and vegetables with large amounts of chemicals actually on them yet that are not thoroughly washed off or that you don't wash off enough, and it is somewhat dangerous to some people, and you have to be very careful. Processing techniques, such as enriched white flour. What is missing? When you take a whole grain of whole wheat and you start off with that and eat it, you get approximately 26 other nutrients that you won't have that's in enriched white flour, or white flour, I should say. What happens is by the time they're done processing it and it ends up in this white flour base, unless they add the 6 to 8 nutrients back in, you would be 26 nutrients short. 26. It almost is a valueless food unless you have it in whole wheat form. So if you're eating a lot of enriched white breads, white flours, pastas, things like that, your nutritional quality is sabotaged. That's the bad carbs again, okay? Preservatives and storage things, oxidation. Bottom line is they add lots of chemicals and stuff to this stuff, BHT, BTH, and there's all kinds of other preservatives in there. The question is, how does that affect you? Well, it might not affect me because my body's not sensitive to it, but if you are, guess what? You're going to have real issues. Okay? When we look at elemental isolation, refined sugar is another example of it. Having it from the cane and actually sucking on sugar cane, not that we're going to walk around and do it, but sometimes it's kind of a treat. They'll actually have it in some of the grocery stores where you can buy sugar cane. But what's interesting is in the cane itself that you actually eat, it has fiber. Okay, that's one thing. And fiber decreases the absorption of bad sugars into the bloodstream. So that's another thing to think about. But it also has magnesium and zinc and copper and other good elements for sugar metabolism. Why do you think diabetes is in a rampant state in the United States of America? It's because how we're making these bad carbohydrates, okay? All right, let's break into glycemic index, insulin response. Glycemic index is basically the following. They took a food, let's say a banana, and they had 10 people approximately actually eat it. They've checked their blood sugar then, and then they took their blood sugar after they ate it after a certain period of time, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and things like that. Then they actually took and measured the rise in their blood sugar during that period of time. Okay? Then they ended up just kind of averaging out with 10 people, on average, what the blood sugar index is. In other words, how fast did insulin raise in their blood sugar that ends up changing their blood sugar levels. So, glycemic index is basically that. A food that you eat, how high is it going to push your sugar and your insulin response, which is the key factor we need to control. Interesting enough, glycemic indexing seems to work terrific for women and not as much for men. Men do better with portion control. Women seem to lose weight in a much more aggressive level if their glycemic index foods, in other words, the foods below 55, are there because they actually lose more weight faster. Okay? So glycemic index, the insulin levels. Okay? That's what we're trying to find out. So higher the insulin, higher the sugar response, the higher the glycemic index. Okay? The lower the glycemic index, the lower the insulin, and the lower the sugar, the healthier the food is many times for you to eat. Okay? So the higher the food is on the index scale, so the higher the number, more likely you are to add to fat storages. So it's a really big issue. So what high insulin response means to you? High insulin response increases swelling, inflammation in the body. It decreases your immune system. So you get sicker and swell more. So when you eat, go out and have just all night pizza, ice cream, sugar, and all those other candy bars, all that stuff, you've shoved your inflammation higher and your immune system lower. So colds and flus and things like that seem to be more rampant. How about, why is it that in the winter people get sicker? Well, I think it's because about Thanksgiving, we've just, all of a sudden, all the gloves are taken off and we start slugging it out with sugar at every event, alcohol, all kinds of things. The kids are giving it all through Christmas, all through New Year's. And guess when it's their sickest time? January, February. Well, guess what? Winter usually kills most of the bugs. So if it kills most of the bugs, quote unquote, why are we so susceptible to illness in January and February? Not as much in November and December. Still a lot because we're already sugaring ourselves out. My belief is lowering your immune system makes you susceptible to those people around you that cough and sneeze. Okay? And then it overstimulates your sugar system, fat storage system. So people put it on in the winter and take it off in the... But their habits are probably as much to blame for it as anything else. Diseases involved, diabetes, hypoglycemia, all immune issues, arthritis, lupus type conditions, neurologic conditions, diseases of the brain, kidneys, heart, may get worse during the time when your insulin levels go up. We know that a diabetic is predisposed to all kinds of diseases. Why? More than likely is because of the constant input of sugar to a point that your system is so sensitive to it, it evolves other disease processes because of the high sugar and inflammation that occurs. So bottom line is, you're producing your own illness, your own sickness, and making your condition worse. You. Something that can be controlled by you. So what affects insulin response? Starch gelatinization. Physical entrapment. We're going to cover these. Don't get too lost here. High amylose. Particle size, viscosity of the fiber, sugar itself, acidity, fat, and protein levels. Okay, so let's talk about starch, particle size, gelatinization. Small, compact particles, comparison to large, swollen particles, absorb more quickly and raise your blood sugar faster. So if you think of enriched white flour, which is small particles, okay, and has almost no nutritional value, will shove your blood sugar up much higher. However, large swollen particles such as a whole grain, such as bulgur or real oats, things like that, don't absorb as easily and break down more slowly and have more nutritional value. Okay? So examples of particle size, look at spaghetti, comparison to oatmeal, cookies, okay, comparison to finely milled flours, and stone ground flour. So get the idea. The more we have synthesized the food, less quality of food, doesn't matter what we put in nutrient-wise, I'm guaranteeing you we're missing a lot of nutrients that would make you healthier, slimmer, and feel much better. Comparison to larger chunked foods that are in the whole form and absorb water and grow when you cook them, such as rice and things like that. Okay? Physical entrapment. The fibrous coating around beans and seeds are very helpful. So pumpernickel breads, legumes, and barley, very healthy for you. See, that cell wall acts as a barrier to digestion. In other words, you don't break it down like boom and immediately quickly elevate your blood sugar. It takes a long time for your body to break it down, so you only get a certain amount of sugar out of it. So your blood sugar goes up just a little, kind of levels out because of this entrapment or barrier that occurs from a hard fibrous outside coat. Even though you've chewed it and broken it down, that fibrous coat actually helps slow down sugar absorption as well as fat absorption if you have any problems with cholesterol or triglycerides in your body too. So it slows down that digestion, and food with more amylose breaks down slower. Basmati rice and legumes. Basmati I like is because it's a sweeter rice and it seems to be easier for most people to put in. The viscosity of fiber. Okay, viscosity, whatever that means, right? Soluble fibers, okay? Slows down the enzyme and starch digestion. In other words, you don't get sugar broken down as quickly, so thus it doesn't shove your blood sugar up. Again, very healthy. These last two points are really key to disease process control, more than you would ever think, okay? Finely milled wheat and rye absorb easily. Boosts the insulin and sugar levels, so if it's more rough, such as rolled oats. Now, not the rolled oats that you get in the store that you can cook in 2 minutes, or you tear open a package and it has all that sugar and all that great stuff in it, and you put in a little hot water, it's perfect. Well, let me tell you, that stuff's been milled out so that nothing's left. If you don't have to cook it for at least 20 minutes to be able to get it up, it's not real steel cut or rolled oats that's healthy for you. The other ones, it's just like in rich white flour. It's just pummeled into the ground until there's nothing left. Beans, lentils, and apples. Apple a day keeps the doctor away. Seems kind of funny, but the truth of the matter is it's very accurate that an apple with the outer shell on it, the peel, and something you've washed thoroughly and you eat is extremely healthy to your well-being and weight control as well as fat control as well as sugar control. Higher fiber means 5 grams or more in each servings. A source of fiber that's intermediate, 2.5 to 4.9, and more or added fiber means less. So when you're looking at a package, it says high fiber, it's got 5 grams fiber or more. When you look at the package and it says source of fiber, it's 2.5 to 4.9, and then more or added fiber, lower than 2.5, and is something you try to avoid. So higher fiber, 5 grams or more per serving is what you're looking for to pick a better food. You'll find that most of your enriched foods won't have that type of fiber level. Why? Most times just unhealthy. So let's look at proteins and fats. Higher protein increases acidity and slows digestion. Interesting enough, we know that acidic foods seem to help slow the digestion of sugars and slows down the amount of sugar that gets in your bloodstream, affecting diabetes and hypoglycemia. Higher fats increase acid and slows digestion, okay? Same thing, fats and proteins. Interesting enough that fats and carbs together isn't a good thing, but fats, proteins, and carbs is a good thing. That combination is very healthy. When you look at fats like animal, olive, and canola, all the fats seem to react the same. As you know, we prefer olive oil and canola. So eating foods not just as a pure sugar, but making sure it's balanced with protein and a little bit of fat, you're going to have a better meal plan than if you do anything else. Now, here's some other acids that you can actually use, such as lemon bars, ones that use real lemon juice or lime juice, vinegar, pickled vegetables, or even sourdough bread. Acidifies your tummy and actually is beneficial in breaking down that blood sugar, but making it so it's not as absorbable if you've eaten some real sharp sugars like pure candies, okay? So good glycemic index list. Now, here's just a few things. It fits on that good glycemic index if it doesn't overly stimulate your blood sugar or blood glucose or insulin to overstimulate. It does not stimulate lipoprotein lipase. Okay, lipoprotein lipase has gotten a lot of press here lately. Bottom line is, kind of think of if insulin is related, lipoprotein lipase is too. Just keep that in mind. Don't get too confused about it. Does not contain high glycemic ingredients, high glycemic raw materials, or high glycemic flavoring systems. Flavoring systems cause, artificial flavor. Look for those things. Those can affect your glycemic index. So So here is some of the glycemic indexes that we should be concerned about. When we look at high glycemic, it's 70 and above. Now realize that you can actually get these, they're little booklets for $2 to $5. Slide them in your purse, put them in your back pocket, your coat pocket. Carry it with you, because then you can actually evaluate what you're looking at eating and know exactly where you're at in glycemic index. Intermediates between 56 and 69, and lower glycemic is 55 and below. Our goal is that you actually stay in the 55 and below area, because it manages your blood sugar, manages how much fat you fat you actually put away into your fat storage, is really, really important. Now remember, high glycemic sugar input actually suppresses your immune system. So if there's autoimmune diseases in your family, cancer, arthritis, other types of GI tract problems that are autoimmune based, or skin lesions, things like this, asthma, things like that, and you have a lot of allergies, the truth is you've got to watch your sugar intake. If you do not, those symptoms will get worse no matter what you do if you don't control your sugar intake. So suppressing the immunity is a big deal, and it upsets your mineral deficiency. It causes mineral deficiencies actually in the body. High sugar intake seems to make it so that you're not eating enough good foods to have enough good healthy minerals that keep you healthy. Creates hyperactivity in children or yourself, where you're just gyrating inside and can't relax, have a tendency to be irritable and edgy all the time. Anxiety, lack of concentration, just can't seem to focus. Hurts good fats. Loss of elasticity. Interesting enough, this trans fatty acid issue, it's really important. If you've been feeding your kids French fries from the time they've been very young, shame on you. And I mean shame on you. Because those fats, now if you bake them in the oven and it's French fries from 1-0, that's a different story. But when we're using trans fatty acids, let me tell you what happens. The layer in your skin itself of where they have something called cis fatty acids, and this is covered in our fat seminar very thoroughly. Please get it. It might change the way you look at things the rest of your life. But cis makes it so your skin is pliable, soft, non-aged looking, okay? When trans fatty acids come in and they take the place of these cis fatty acids, they're very firm, not very flexible, create aging, grouping, elasticity is lost, aging process seems to advance itself in these cases. So when you start your kids on this is the type fats that they're putting in constantly. Let me tell you what you're not only doing to their skin, but in every cell in their body that's dependent upon good fats to be present for healthy response or enzymatic reactions, you're sabotaging it every time you give them that treat at whatever place you take them to. It is not a treat. It is tormentive to those kids, that kid's body. It is something that should not occur. If it occurs on great occasion, fine. But let me tell you, if it's twice a week, you need work. You need somebody to help you hold yourself accountable not to take the easy way out for those kids. Dads are some of the worst that we have to deal with. They just don't want to go home and do anything extra for those kids. Not because they don't want to, they just don't plan it because they don't see the importance. Let me tell you, it's important. Okay? We know that high glycemic sugars feed cancer cells at a 300 to 500% level. Okay? You want to get cancer on a higher level? Keep eating sugar. It lowers your immune response, gives those cancer cells a leg up. Is that the only thing that causes cancer? Absolutely not. But is it a contributor? Increases diabetes, hypoglycemia, weakens eyesight, increases GI tract distress. I've seen it in kids all day long. It's amazing. Cut out their sugar, all of a sudden they don't have digestion problems. They're not vomiting at 5 years old for no apparent reason. It does make a difference. And for your adults, I'm telling you, gas problems, doesn't digest well, cut out all the sugars and rich white flours and pastas and all that kind of stuff. Clean up your diet. See what happens to your GI tract. You might have completely corrected it and stopped spending $100 and some on a medication that might not be the only thing you need for this. I am not telling you to stop. Tell your doctor and you discuss it. But make these changes that are good for you, and then if you don't need it, the doctor will take you off, and that's what we want. Premature aging can lead to alcoholism, increases tooth decay, we already know that one, increases obesity, arthritis, and osteoporosis, increases blood pressure. Cut out the salt, eat a DASH diet. If you've not seen on our website, look under high blood pressure for dummies, and you'll see that Dr. Rubin talks about this DASH diet. It's a wonderful diet and very, very helpful. But cut out sugar, cut out salt, You might be lowering your own blood pressure without needing something else done for you. In other words, we know that most blood pressures can actually be managed by you if you lose the weight, get the exercise going, and lower your stress and correct your diet.